How's things going down there?
Perfect. Great. Great. Yeah, here in Arizona. It's good. Just, man, I've never been so busy. It's a good thing.
You've got a lot going on, though, man. I mean, you've got...
It's really cool. Yeah.
It is. You got the Ellefson debut record coming this fall. Megadeth, you guys have started working on the follow-up to Dystopia. There's a lot going on, and you just did a live streaming event with your nonprofit, man. How do you stay sane, man? I mean, you've got to schedule all this stuff very concisely, I would assume.
Yeah, every day, honestly, if you want to know the truth, I just wake up, I hit my knees, I say a little prayer, just, God, lead me where you need me. And then the calendar just fills up.
Nice.
I'm not kidding you. It's that simple. I just check in with the boss and follow the marching orders, And, and honestly, that just kind of keeps it real simple. I figure, when the phone rings my way and the emails show up, I figure I know who sent them my way, And,
awesome.
and it's cool. I just kind of always go back to my childhood. I was just a kid. I grew up on a farm in Minnesota, came from a good family. We worked hard 6 days a week, went to church on Sunday, and just kind of followed the good, orderly direction, as they told me, when I was in a drug and alcohol rehab back in the late 80s, leading up to right before we recorded Rest in Peace in 1990. I got sobered up. And,
that's awesome.
They told me, they said, look, keep God real simple, good, orderly direction. Just do the next right thing, and a good life will follow, And I sat there, I remember just kind of going, God, my fingers hurt, my body hurts coming off all the drugs, and I don't even know if I still want to play the bass anymore. And this moment just followed right after this thought that just went, wait a minute, you started playing music for fun when you were just a kid at 11 years old. Sex, drugs just got in the way of the rock and roll. Get that out of the way and you'll be good, And that's what happened, and quite honestly, since 1990, since I got clean back then, it's really been a wonderful and blessed life, a happy life, and it's kind of like the powers that be just seem to kind of put stuff in my path, and I'd like to think my life is just a mirror of following that good, orderly direction.
That's awesome, man. I've got to ask you, man. I've listened to this song like 5 times today alone. The cover of Over Now, the Post Malone cover you guys did. I absolutely love that song. Why that one, though?
I got to hand it. That was Tom Hazard's idea.
Okay.
We were on tour. We were over in Italy doing a little solo tour for about 10 days over there. And to kick off the tour, we rehearsed in Milan, and that was when we wrote the previous song we released called Simple Truth. We actually wrote it that afternoon right before we started rehearsing for the tour. And then while we were driving around, Tom said, he goes, and he was kind of hesitant to bring it up because he knows that I like Post Malone. I love his music. I think he's got an incredible sound.
Yeah.
There's certainly a reason why he's so popular. And my wife and kids with my daughter, they like him. And so he said, he goes, I don't know how you feel about this, but what do you think about doing Over Now by Post Malone? I said, yeah. I said, why not? Let's check it out. And I knew of the song. I knew that it had some pretty raunchy lyrics in the chorus, so I was kind of like, all right, we're gonna have to work around that at radio at some level. But I get the spirit of the song, and I think Tom is really good with me. Look, on one level, I could be really comfortable just saying, hey, I'm in Megadeth. This is what we do. This is who I am, and just leave it at that, But I'm never settled with just resting on my laurels and going, a lot of fans like what I do in Megadeth, and that's great. But I'm always like, young people always reinvent the music business. They always have. And the young people ushered in Elvis. They ushered in the Beatles. They ushered in Kiss. That was my generation. My daughter's generation is ushering in Post Malone.
Yeah.
So I like to always keep my ear to the ground of how the youth is thinking about music, how they're processing music, how they listen to it. I I love digital. I record digital. I buy everything on digital.
Awesome.
I also too buy some vinyl, but I'm a digital man, and I love the world that we live in and how we can move content around. And that in itself, I think, keeps me youthful, and I feel young at heart, because I'm not just being some, stodgy old guy sitting on the side of that's not the way we did it back when, and keep it old school and all that shit. I'm all good with the old school. I'm part of that now.
Right.
I'm old enough and I'm part of the old school. But there's two words in there that I don't like: old and school.
Right.
So for me, I'd rather keep my ear to the ground and be in touch with where the youth is at too.
That's awesome. And with the record coming out this fall, is the record done, or are you with Ellefson? Is that record finished, just waiting for the release, or still working on finalizing it?
We're still working on it. Originally, we were going to get over to London right after Easter, and of course those plans were changed by the pandemic. But we've been very productive and working very productively remotely, and I don't like making records remotely. I like being in the room. There's chemistry that happens. There's moments that just are not going to happen when every man is an island unto himself. But there are moments that happen when you're together in a room, just an idea, a thought. Hey, can we change that note here? Hey, how about if we double the chorus over there? There's verbal and even unspoken communication that happens when you're in the room together. So, but because this lineup has toured and we've written together, we wrote Simple Truth together, we've worked together, and we're good friends. We've really found a connectivity with me in Arizona, Tom in Wisconsin, Andy and Paolo over in Italy, our mixer Alessio up in London, and so we've really found a great way to, and Bumblefoot in New Jersey. We've really found a way to be a virtual band in this time when there was no other way. We seemed to find a way.
Yeah, and speaking of virtual, you guys, it just got announced a little bit ago today that the metal tour of the year, the summer tour you guys were going to do with Lamb of God and Trivium and In Flames, you guys are going to be doing a live streaming event coming up. Yep. I mean, how do you feel about the live? A lot of bands are going that route right now, doing live streaming concerts and Q&As and stuff like that. Slipknot's doing the Knotfest streaming old shows, and Metallica's doing it. I mean, do you think that that's kind of the way to go until this whole thing passes? Or, I mean, how do you feel about that? And how excited are you for this one that you guys are going to be doing?
Well, look, it's a stopgate. You know what I mean? It's a way to keep our community of music and fans connected together.
Yes.
Because I think that's what we want more than anything is we want some kind of connectivity between us. And so that's one way to do it, until things open back up and we can all go hang out in the big room and enjoy a rock concert together again.
Yeah, rock and metal's always been about
partly why me and Tom started the Oh Say Can You Stream series.
Yes.
We've done 3 of them now. We've couched them in and around the David Ellefson Youth Music Foundation, so it's been a great way to bring awareness to that. It's been a good way to bring people into that foundation and participate. And you got to realize, too, when sometimes all anyone needs is someone to reach out to them and say, hey, do you want to be a part of this? And especially what we went through these last 3 months, you really realize there's a lot of people sitting at home hurting. Even in our own industry, because people are watching tours go away, they're watching income go away. They're, musicians, road crew, all these different people, production people, and so they're sitting at home kind of alone in their head, freaking out. End of the world sort of doomsday thinking sets in for all of us. And I think when we reach out, we say, hey, you want to be a part of this? Suddenly, what you see, I mean, every stream had like 50 people in it, you know what I mean? And that's just because people are like, man, I'd love to just be hanging out with some people, and we're all friends in the same community, and it doesn't really matter what genre you play in, just we're all hanging out together. And I think it's in a lot of ways, the fans kind of like to, and certainly the media likes to sort of subdivide us. Well, they're a hair metal band, and it's a thrash metal band, and that's a death metal band. And, in this period of time right now, all that goes away. Yep. We're just musicians. We're fans. We're fans of each other, and we're just hanging out. And that, to me, is really some of the cool blessings that have actually happened with all this pandemic right now.
And you just did one of those events a few weeks ago, I think. I think. Or recently.
We did one 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks ago we did one, and that one was around our friend Mark Weiss, the photographer. He has a new book that just came out called The Decade That Rocked. So we're helping promote that for him, and he reached out to a lot of his friends who were in the book and brought them in, and that was. I mean, for me, I'm a huge fan of Kix, that band. So to have Steve Whiteman on the podcast, there was a great or not on our stream, I should say, and there was a great moment with Nuno Betancourt, Zach Wilde, and Rudy Sarzo, and they all had these Ozzy stories they were sharing together, and they each from very different eras. Nuno was sharing how he'd sent a tape in to Ozzy and Sharon, and never heard back, and suddenly out of nowhere he's on an Extreme tour, and they needed a guitar player like tonight, and Nuno was approached, and then he couldn't do it because he had his own band, and he was successful in his own right, So just these great stories of our lives as professional musicians and fans. It's so cool to do these streams.
One thing that I did not realize is I talked to this guy earlier today, and this has been on my mind for like 4 years. And I talked to John Schlitt earlier today from Petra, and I did not realize.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and you actually were a part of their Union of Sinners and Saints record 4 years ago and helped out with that a little bit.
Yes, right.
I wondered if that was you for 4 years when I saw your name on it. And it's such a different style than we're used to hearing from you. I mean, what was that like to kind of, I guess, slow down a little bit and switch styles a little bit?
Well, first of all, I'm a big Head East fan. So John Schlitt is God in my book. I mean, Head East live, flat as a pancake. I mean, a kid from the Midwest. Those were my bands. Them, REO, Styx, Ted Nugent. Yeah. Those were my bands. And then when John had his faith transformation and became a singer of Petra, I have a good friend of mine, Billy Smiley. Yeah, he was the guitar player in the band Whiteheart, and I met him through Dan Huff when we were recording the Megadeth Risk album in Nashville. Turns out Billy lives 10 minutes from me here in Scottsdale, but he does most of his producing work in Nashville, so he and I are good friends. And Billy's brought me into a bunch of stuff over the years, and that was one of them because he has that band that he does with John. Yeah. So, he just asked me to play on it, and I said, "Oh my gosh, the pleasure's mine." I mean, I've not even met John yet, and I played on the record with him, and he's Dan, the bass player, used to live here. I actually knew his ex-wife. He's since passed away, so I guess his widow. I knew her through just a whole other social circle. And I just saw that the guitar player had passed a couple of months ago as well. So Head East. I mean, they're just a huge band in my book when I was a teenager.
Yeah, and I've talked to John a few times now, and just every time I'm just like, man, I'm talking to the singer of my childhood favorite band right now. This is so cool. Yep. And I saw him play a couple times at the Roof Garden in Spirit Lake, Iowa, Lake Okoboji. They came through a couple times, and so I got to see him sing and perform, and they were great. They had a new guitar player named Tony that played with them at the time. He had this cool red BC Rich Mockingbird, but I just got the BC Rich, so I was a fan of anyone who played a BC Rich. And it was great. Front row, right there, watching Head East. So it's so cool. Yeah. And you were inducted into the Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which I didn't realize that you had Iowa roots. Which I grew up in southeastern Iowa up until 2012, and then moved out here to Indy, and to know that you were inducted into that Hall of Fame is super cool. I mean, what does Iowa mean to you, and what was that like when that happened?
Yeah, well, so I grew up in Jackson, Minnesota, which is literally 20 minutes across the border from Iowa. And my mom is from a town called Spencer, Iowa, which is like maybe 15, 20 minutes from Lake Okoboji, Spirit Lake area. And well, actually, she grew up in Gillett Grove, a little town that I don't even think really exists anymore. But her and my dad got married in Spencer. She did nurses. She worked as a nurse in Spencer, and then when we got married, then they moved up to Jackson, where my father was from, and where our family farm is. So, to me, growing up around there, bands, we would always play. All my bands we would do the ballroom circuit. We'd play at Fox Lake Ballroom, which was in Sherburne, Minnesota, about 20 minutes from my house. We'd go down to Bancroft Ballroom, down in Bancroft, Iowa. There's a band under called Gray James who were working the circuit, and they were kind enough to let my band jump on a lot of shows with them. And then I joined, in my senior year of high school, I joined a band called Renegade out of Estherville, Iowa. And they had a pretty good following, and they played everything from high school proms to the ballrooms. We opened for Chameleon, whose keyboard player was Yanni at the time.
Really?
And then also we opened for I think it was Johnny Van Zant. Of the Skinner family tree. He had a guitar. He was a guitarist, so he had a solo career. So we opened for him, and that was in Iowa. So I a lot of my roots of learning the road and learning the business and before I moved to LA in 1983, I a lot of my cut my eye teeth on the Iowa.
That's awesome.
Circuit.
That is awesome. And finally, I wanted to ask, how exciting is it to have the Fallout pedal, coming out here pretty soon?
Super cool, man. I love it. I've had a few signature, pedals and stuff over the years, and I'm very selective. I don't use a lot of pedals. In fact, my whole sound is just be as clean as the board of health. For me, because I own PA systems back in Minnesota, that's what we had to do. We had to own our own sound and light systems and have our own transportation. So I was the guy that owned sound and lights, and we rehearsed on my family farm. And so for me, learning about pro audio, low end and bass is just to be as clean as possible. And that was sort of in fact, my first bass amp with Megadeth was my PA from Minnesota. When I moved out there, I brought it out.
Nice.
And I just, so I learned even more about developing my own personal tone within the confines of Megadeth and how we developed the Megadeth sound and where the bass sat in that. And, so now to be developing some signature pedals, I had a chorus pedal called the Dawn Patrol pedal, and now this new Fallout pedal, which is, has some nice gain and distortion to it. So it's really cool to, obviously it's an honor to have signature products for sure, but also things that, that I can tweak my tone a little bit with, both in and outside of Megadeth, because I obviously play on a lot of records. I'm going in the studio today to play on some stuff. I've got my own solo record. And those tones and those settings can be a little bit different than what I just do in Megadeth, because my sound is in your hand, your tone is in your hand, and that's your signature voice really on your instrument is in your hands. But it's okay to modify and shape the tones a little bit to fit into the setting that you're playing in. So it's that's where I find that these signature pedals, that's really where they find their place.
That's awesome. Finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. Last question: How's the new Megadeth record coming along? You guys are working on it now. How's it sound?
Yeah, it's phenomenal. We've been writing it for the last 2.5 years, and so now to finally be laying the tracks down and building the house, if you will, that will become album 16. It's really feels really good to finally have the train leaving the station and getting this thing going now.